Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toku Portal podcast for Kamen Rider Zero-One. I'm Vashi V, and joining me today is...
Right. Welcome to Kamen Rider Zero-One, Episode 9. So, hot off the trails of last week's episode, Fua is almost dead, and the only one that can save him is a Humagear surgeon. Excuse me. Now, we've talked a lot about can a robot be a cook? Can a robot be a voice actress? Whatever. I feel like this is a big one, though. Can a robot be a surgeon?
Like, for me particularly, because I know we touched a little bit on this last week because it focused on the nurse last week. I followed the same kind of feeling that, yes, because they'd be more precise and less shaky, like, because, like, as much as it wasn't focused on, I guess, properly for, like, X-Aid, the actual doctor side of everything, aside from one or two few moments, X-Aid did do a good job of showing that how nerves can affect somebody. And with something with a major operation, life-saving operation, stuff like that, is like the nerves can get overwhelming, your hands can start to shake, and you can screw up because of that. I mean, it's and if you don't believe me, just Google malpractice lawsuits. You'll see a crap ton of them. So I think with a android or cyborg, whatever robot doing it, it would be more precise and it would minimize 99% of human error with operations. Because let's face it, he's not going to lose his watch in a body.
Well, if we're at this point where like the robots are almost indistinguishable from humans, then yeah, sure. But if we're still in the testing phases, like, nah, man, I'm not gonna be a guinea pig for a robot that's still learning.
Oh, right, absolutely no. Like with my arguments for like when we do this is like my arguments are robotics are at the level of that they are in Zero-One. Using that world as a scope, then yes, absolutely 100%. I don't see the problem with it. If they tried to do this today, nope, get that away from me. I am nobody's guinea pig.
Also, Matsubo Jinrai wasn't actually stopped last episode, so they still have their army of Magir and like the Giga to hack another hospital if they aren't stopped.
So real quick, I want to point out like there I want to say you shared the clip with me.
Which
or
clip?
that the
The new form?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I liked that translation better just because, like, if you were to put the translation that was in it, where Jin called him a Gigar instead of a Giga, like, if you would have left everything else the same and just put that particular translation in, it would have fit perfectly. Because I could see Jin going, just being that happy, excited, calling something by the wrong name or mispronouncing it because it's funny and cute. Because I didn't even question that it was a translation difference when I saw it. I just thought that was Jin being Jin.
So, news report about the incident. Basically, the reporters announced that an infected Humagear will have its eyes turn red, so that's kind of your indication that you can no longer trust it. The board of directors, or vice president or whatever, are basically working, planning on shutting down all Humagear to decrease the risk. They want to show that they are still in charge of the Humagear. They are still in control. And their Humagear assistant, Izu, first of all, argues that is a bad idea. The hospitals are already understaffed. If you shut down the human gear workers, lots of people will die that need medical attention. And then the other human gear assistant points out, if those human gear go rampant, more casualties could be caused. So this is the first time where we have a conflict of opinion on human gear.
And it's done very well because both sides are actually right.
But this is
the arguments that they have for why they're on each side is 100% accurate on both sides.
this is like you could have two humans would make this argument, but robots, which are programmed with the knowledge they are supposed to have, are disagreeing on this subject.
Which in this particular case, I think it's just due to the programming, because Izu is specifically programmed to follow Aruto's orders, instructions. That's her job, to do whatever he wants. And using, the the artificial intelligence learning algorithms or whatever that they're using, Izu would be able to eventually. I don't. It again depends on time frame of robotics and all this. That she would be able to adapt to be able to assume what Aruto would want and the stance that he would take.
I agree.
Which that is exactly the stance he would take. And then you have the vice presidents, who's the same thing, just for the vice president. Or I would say more for the company, but we've literally only seen her interact for the vice president. So it'd be the same. Because it's not a mass. Them learning their owner's mentality on things.
Aruto, in the moment, though, finds himself unable to make a decision. Therefore, the vice president steps in and makes the decision for him and shuts down the human gear.
Which, again, very much what the vice president should do. Especially with the realm of it, because at this point, aside from the whole trying to get Aruto fired, he's also trying to think of the company as a company. And the more this shit plays out, the worse it's going to be for them. Because in this particular case, bad publicity is straight up bad publicity. So if it looks like things are out of Hiden's control, customers lose faith, their sales go down, which they pointed out that they've tanked. And, it's at a point of there is a problem. And this is like the first point where Aruto actually had to make a decision like that. So it's very much understood why he balked at it and didn't make a decision. Because again, both sides were right. So it's where do you put the risk?
And then with the human gears shut down, we see the consequences of that. We see all the people the human gears were helping are now helpless as the human gears shut down in front of them. People in need and who are going to die.
Like Fuwa. Which I get that was the extreme example of it, but yeah. And that's exactly what, was said was going to happen, because it was understaffed. And this also kind of shows a little bit of, I feel like, the over-reliance on human gears. Because, well, yes, the hospital was understaffed with humans, probably understaffed because they had so many human gear. So it's that too much of a good thing. It made that it can make you as a society very complacent. And then when shit goes south, you're screwed. Because in this case, shit went south and they were screwed.
And like Kamen Rider Build was a series about war, but very little did we actually see the consequences of that war. We usually just followed the main characters around and saw that very little changed for them throughout the series.
Like the closest for that we really truly saw for the consequences of war for the main characters was uh Rogue, and because his storyline for that was literally because of war.
And
And then
Grace.
and Greece was the here are your consequences of war on a very small scale, because literally it was he lost 3 people to war. That was that was like it.
But here Zero-One takes its moment very seriously. Like, hey, you shut down all the medical human gear, people relying on them are going to be in trouble. And that's exactly what's happening. They're not
Right.
glancing over it, they're not sugarcoating it. Like, no, no, people are going to die.
Right.
This is what terrorism does.
And it's very much like, so this next comment I'm going to make is going to sound like I'm like praising terrorism. I'm not by any means. Terrorism is a horrible thing. But there, from an overreaching standpoint of looking at an event of terrorism, you can see the shift that happens because of it. And you can, because of an act of terrorism, you can see changes that need to be made, either as a country, as a society, in general. Like this small little moment, because of the act of terrorism, has shown a little bit of an over reliance on human gears in this particular instance. And then, like for 9/11 for us here in the U.S., it was, yeah, we need to pay a little bit more attention to things going on within our country because we got we got hit. So it made us reevaluate our security, our the in an effort to keep something like that from happening again. In which this case, in theory, the hospital will go, well, that was bad. That could have been much worse than it was. We might need to reevaluate how this is set up.
So now we find Aruto thinking through his decision, or rather his indecisiveness, because he's worried about what human gear could be if Jin and Hirobi exist, but he's also met a lot of singularity human gear that were good people. Also, hey Zero.
Hello.
So we were just talking about how all the human gear was shut down, and the show goes out of its way to show us all the people who are relying on human gear not having that help anymore, and the danger it puts them in.
Yeah, that was pretty great, honestly, because it's like even if you don't trust them, it's like you can't just like shut them off because society kind of depends on them at this point. So that was actually pretty well done. Like this episode is actually probably the best in the show at this point. I'm thinking
Easily.
because it's so nuanced. Well, I mean, for Ryder.
Uh,
Yeah. No, anyway. You guys, did you talk about like Fua or you?
we talked a little bit about Fua and how he's going to die without a human gear surgeon performing his operation, and what it would mean for like, hey, can a robot be a doctor?
I mean,
Or a surgeon
yeah, okay,
specifically. We did doctor last
yeah.
week, surgeon.
So surgeon, I think it's one of the more easier ones because it's interesting. So we have like telepresence surgeons right now, which isn't robotic doctors per se, but it's basically like, hey, we have a specialist, but they're like halfway across the world, and we have this like super robotic, like operating room kind of. Well, it's mostly just like a thing that hangs over a table. But it can like perform surgery, but like the doctor doesn't have to be there. So like we're kind of moving in that direction anyway, and like surgery is one of those things where it's like you don't have to diagnose anything. You already kind of know what the problem is. At which point you're kind of just like, yeah, you have art. I mean, enough knowledge about human biology and enough of what's wrong and how to fix it. Like, yeah, I could see it eventually. Like a robotic surgeon makes more sense than a robotic doctor because um, there's a couple different things. Well, I mean, like the ones in the show make more sense because they're so advanced for doctors anyway because they can like scan and do all the medical tests and help out realistically. So yeah, an advanced version like that's helpful, but getting there is like a huge process. Whereas like a robotic surgeon, like we're kind of going on that way anyway because like fMRIs and stuff. Like if we figure out some other like more efficient scanning tech, and then we get the telepresence stuff going, and we do enough of these, like eventually, like you can just compile the data, use like a machine learning setup to just create your robotic surgeon, who learned from all the surgery and perform it well enough. I mean, like, you might need somebody to sit there and supervise just in case, but it's like, most of the time they'll still do the right things anyway.
Right. And
Um,
it can, like I was saying earlier, is like one of the biggest issues with human doctors is simple human error. Most surgeries, for the most part, are fairly straightforward. You know what's wrong, you know what needs to be fixed. And a lot of the errors happen because somebody didn't prep right. Like I had mentioned, there's been hundreds of stories of doctors leaving their watches in a human body because it fell off. But 90% of the problems are, oops, I accidentally cut something I shouldn't have. Whereas
right.
with and I preface all my statements that like my arguments for this is all based on we live in a world of 0-1. We're at that level with my arguments. At that point,
Yeah,
you've
that's
at
right.
that point you've taken out the ability for human error in that aspect. It, they're they should be that much more precise. That there should be no oops, I accidentally cut an artery.
Right. I mean, the thing with robotic or like telepresence surgeries now is they're a lot less invasive, which makes them a lot safer, kind of. So you wouldn't even have a thing because like most of the time you don't have to cut a person like fully open because like you don't need human hands to go in and fix it. Right. And then whereas the human problem comes also in is like surgeries take a long time, especially like the complicated ones. Like they could take up to like 12, 15 hours. Like you could be the best fucking human being you can. Like normal doctors and nurses like do like 12, 15 hour shifts. Like can you imagine a fucking surgeon like having to deal with that shit? Because it's not like you can't just be like, "Oh yeah, tag other surgeon, you take over." Like it doesn't work like that.
Right.
Whereas like
Because
if you had like a robotic thing, you could because then you just have like a team of surgeons like supervising just in case.
right.
And
It's
then
like,
like
and then with like, and touching on that for a second, it's like with humans, like you get, especially with the longer surgeries, you get fatigue and which and tiredness and all that. It just adds into the ability to make a mistake. Like the longer a surgery goes on, the it increases the risk of, granted, usually a fairly minor mistake, but a mistake nonetheless, because exhaustion takes over. fatigued, you're tiring out, your hands are shaking because you've been doing this for so long. Whereas
Yeah,
with a robot, you would not have that fatigue. It just start finish.
yeah. And the other thing too is like technically doctors train to minimize most of that stuff, but the thing is like how many, right? Like the problem always becomes like you need a specialist for a specialist surgery. And like once you get the surgery down for a robot, you just copy and paste and build new machines, right? Like you don't have to train like 10 years, and become like a really good surgeon and hope nothing fucks up your body, like your hand-eye coordination
Right.
along the
Because
way, right?
it's like at that point,
Whereas like
you've made one, it's trained up right. Okay, now we can mass produce that.
right, whereas like a human, it's like even if you give enough doctors general knowledge, like to get to that level, like how many people, like it's just a bottleneck problem again. It's like surgeons definitely needed, specialist surgeons is, even more, but like there's very few people, and that's why like the fucking wait times are insane for that shit.
All right.
I mean, the weird thing in the show hasn't really brought up is like, okay, they have like medical robots, but like how good is their medical tech, right? Like we have like lifelike humanistic like fucking AI walking around. Like how good is your 3D printing? Like medical 3D printing. So like people should be living like way better anyway. So it's it just looks like a regular hospital. I know why they don't show it. It's because fucking Toei has no money for any of that shit. Um, but like Fuo was damaged. Like it could have been like, oh shit, he got like shot in the heart or something. It's like, well, either he's gonna get a robotic heart or we just 3D print him like his own one. But I'm like, we're at that tech level, but you still have to port it in with the surgeon, and the robotic surgeon would still be needed.
So Naruto's thinking through his indecisiveness when Yua jumps in and begs him to reactivate the human gear, also admitting her responsibility in that she helped make the Giga, or at least she had a hand in it. Naruto decides to reactivate the human gear, figuring, alright, if I just have to take out the Giga to stop the rampaging, then that's what I'll do. And he takes off. Yua questions why Izu didn't stop him, because he can't win as he is. But she can't stop him, he's the president. And Yua asks, are you okay with your president dying? And Izu thinks for a moment and answers, no. So here's my question. Is she saying no because she's the president's assistant, so of course she wouldn't be programmed to want the president to die? Or is she saying no because Naruto is her friend?
Like for me, I want to say it's a mixture of both because like we've already seen her learning and adapting since the series started. Beyond what she's programmed to, she's taking matters into her own hands and made her own decisions. So I think this is more like this just the small steps that they're showing leading up to her gaining complete sentience and singularity and all that. Um, especially with the fact that she starts questioning what does it mean to be what is benevolence, whether or not if a human gear reached singularity, would they be benevolent? So it's like she's already questioning things that are beyond her scope of programming.
Zero?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like, hmm, like technically she doesn't want her president to die, which would make sense. But like I feel like it's like it's starting to become like she's becoming self-aware. Like it's weird because we know she's gonna be one of the special ones, so it's like that you just kind of fucking run into Blade Runner problems at that point. It's like, well, what is like self-determination, right? Because it's like is Rachel, was she all programming or was she like self, sentient or like, well, I mean like technically like Reploids are kind of different things. They're not exactly AI, so
But
not
it
more complicated.
like for this, it's where do you draw the line at this is just a machine learning, which machines will always learn and adapt. That's what AI is designed to do. It's like, but it's where is that tipping point where it's no longer just the programming learning and it being self-aware.
Yeah, I feel like
That additional little small step towards her, because I'm looking at all of her since the start of learning and adapting. Because none of us are stupid. We've all seen writers since, you know, at least Agito. We're aware of the tropes and the way the storylines typically progress as like, and this is very, very much one of those where you're sitting there going like, this is a thing. We need to pay attention to this because this is that character getting uh character development slowly and progressively through the series, and it's not forefront, but it's there. So it does start to make things a little bit more questionable on, specifically what this is. But we know where this is progressing because we're not dumb. We've all seen this before.
yeah, I
So
mean, go ahead.
we're picking up on it more, saying it's why this is a question because we know kind of where this is headed. That we have that distinction of, well, is this the start of it, or is this leading towards that, or is this just normal behavior?
Right. And I think like the okay, there's like two ways. Like one, there it's gonna be an episode, and they'll be like, okay, boom, she's like self-aware, and it's gonna be a big deal. Or we're gonna get an episode with the other assistant AI, the one in like gray and red. Um, and because they seem like comparable, so I want to see like how self-aware she is. So then I could like actually judge on a scale of where Izu is, you know? Because like she seems pretty like similar enough. I mean, maybe not like as advanced, because she's not like a main character, but I don't know. Yeah, I feel like she's getting there, but she's not fully self-aware yet because she's still questioning it. Because like that's like her whole point. Like that's the whole point of her character is to bring up these questions, right? Um, that being said, yeah, can we fucking like talk about Yua? Like, goddamn, like I thought this was gonna be like a Fua episode, but like fuck him. Like literally everybody else got like character development besides that guy. I mean, like he got it at the end where he was like sitting on the roof or whatever, and we get that like cool shot with like the electric fences. I don't know. Maybe it's like fucking Pacific Rim, and they're keeping the kaiju's out or some shit. Who knows? But um, yeah, he got that cool moment at the end where he started to look more like fucking Tsukasa from like Decade. Um, but like, holy shit! Like, I was not expecting like Yua to become like emotional and like questioning like her reliance on tools and all that shit like this early on. Like that was so well done. And then she lies at the end. I was like, oh, this is great because like it kind of like just showcases her character, but it also like teaches Yua, I mean not Yua, Izu, yeah, Izu, right?
Yeah, the
New
robot,
things where
yes.
it's like humans lie, right? So like this is gonna become like a plot point at some point. So like yeah, like Arto got like great moments. Like Fura, it's kind of just like finally starting like his character arc properly now. Um, but like yeah, Yua and Izu got a lot this episode. I was not expecting that.
Yua gives Izu the Mammoth Zetsumari's key she stole last episode or the one before, uh, thinking that she might be able to use it. Izu scans it and accesses the database and confirms that Hiden was working on something similar. Not a weapon that Ames made, but rather a emergency rescue machine. So she is able to recreate something like that for Aruto. Yua sees how calm that Izu is and realizes, like, huh, you are different from humans. And this is where you ask the question, like, hey, if singularity happened, would Humagear be benevolent?
Um, so, um, this is where something I read comes into fact, which may be a spoiler, it may not be. Um, a, from what I've read, which spoiler warning for anybody. Apparently, there was a Proto Zero-One. From what I've read, I'll have to find the article so I can send it to you guys. So it would be very much, obvious that yes, well, this is a thing that Hedon was developing for Zero-One, for this type of incident. But this also points out and shows out that the Zetsumarais keys, to me, I believe, are just the prototype versions of, or what would have been the prototype versions for Zero-One. Um, because with this being, you know, the specific one that they used, which was, I forget the name of the Zetsumarais key, other than it was Mammoth.
Yeah, just Mammoth.
Whereas this one, it's something else, but it's still
It's
Mammoth,
it's breaking Mammoth.
right? So it's very much shows like progression off the original, which would also explain why Ames has the Gigas, which if you look at the episode, it's very much like an undertoned version of Breaking Mammoth. Um, so it shows a um correlation between both companies in developing this particular item, and the fact that there is that connection between the Zetsumarais keys and the Progress keys.
So Zaya and Hiden uh, worked together on Daybreak Town. So it's possible that Zaya got their designs from the same blueprints that Hiden had, that
Right,
Izu looked up.
right. It's like, and to me, adds a little bit more weight to the theory that I had that little shadowy asshole from Ames is connected to Metsubo Jinrai.
That guy is actually from Zaya.
Right. So there's a good chance that, which would explain again the Jin and Hirobi having the screwed up proto keys, and you know Ames' buildup of tech from them.
Yeah, I mean, interesting points, honestly. I mean, if there was like a Proto Zero One, I guess we're just gonna go with like prototype numbers. Would that be just like 00, whatever? Um, but so like 01 has his like AI satellite and his keys. Does that mean like the Metsubo Jinrai's like satellite is like Proto 01, or yeah, like the previous 01?
Mhm.
Okay, fuck it. Like the previous rider's satellite that just crashed, and they just have his like prototype keys.
Possibly,
That would be
yes.
interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting way of doing it. As for the stupid Megazord, I mean, they say it's like, oh yes, we built this tech to rescue people. I'm like, from what? Like, fucking Ultraman monsters? Like,
Well,
what was the
no,
rescue plan?
the Breaking Mammoth wasn't built for like emergency rescue. The design came from the blueprints for a emergency rescue design.
Yeah, I know, but I'm like, they're still just trying to justify it. But I'm like, in real life, like, why, why do you need like a 50-foot robot, Japan? I mean, it's cool and all, but like, how does this help in rescuing anything?
because
Uh,
it's
I mean, like,
2019. Because it's 2019, and where's my Gundam?
they have
that.
like two of those, you asshole.
Oh, I know. Where's mine? It wasn't a question of where theirs. Where mine?
I don't know. Join the fucking robot fighting league. I mean, okay, which one? Not the American one with the battle bots, not the Japanese one with the small robot, like super articulated ones. Those are super fun to watch. Um, the giant mech one with the two companies fighting it out. That happened like last year.
I think I saw clips from that. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
So we're getting there. I mean, maybe you're not gonna get a Gundam, but like maybe a Tachikoma or something. I'm fine with
I would
that.
be okay with the. I would be okay with the Tachikoma. I just need to upload the voice. It has to have
Oh
the
God,
Tachikoma voice,
yes, yeah. Oh fuck.
and it
It
can
needs
call
like
me
a.
Major.
Why not? It'll be Tachikoma Vocaloid. Oh well, I guess it'd be not Vocaloid. What's the other one? G something. Whatever. Moving on.
so Vashi sent me the article about the Proto Zero One. That was just speculation on the person's part because they saw the scan, didn't know what it was. I can confirm that that is not a prototype suit. That is Aruto.
Oh, okay. Never
Uh,
mind.
so, spoilers for the Reiwa crossover movie with Zio. Another Zero One exists. So Aruto loses his ability to become Zero One as normal. So he uses a different driver, the Metsubo Jinrai one, to henshin, and that is the appearance that he takes.
Huh,
Okay,
that's
so
interesting.
that's that's
Also,
my error there.
no, that's fine. I mean, it
Also,
gave
I'm sorry, but
rise
I
to an
think he looks
interesting.
better.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice
Using the
suit.
Mesobyte Jinrai thing, I think he looks a little bit better.
Dude, it's such a better driver to begin with. Honestly,
This one looks more like built for combat. Like what you would like if because it like to me this is like the Zect form of 01. Like the Zect
yeah, yeah.
the Rider
Habitat.
Trooper just better.
Yeah. Honestly, like the most. Okay, we're kind of getting into grunts, but like, yeah, you're right. Rider Troopers from Fives. Yeah,
Just
Ride Troopers. The
yeah,
Ride
just
Troopers,
better.
honestly, are like the best fucking grunt suit, I think, out of them all. Okay, like the Gaim one is pretty good, but like, I hate how they took like a rider and then just turned it into a grunt suit. I'm like, that's fucking bullshit. Um, but the ride troopers, I'm like, fuck it. If you wanted a Sentai rider suit, this is pretty much what it would be. I mean, like you would have a cooler mask, but besides that, that thing was.
So one thing that I forgot to mention was that some of the human gear, particularly the one doing Fua surgery, was hit with the infection, but did not change. And even when Metsubo Jinrai launches its next attack on another hospital and transports more Magir, he freezes as though he's going to transform, but he doesn't. He resists. Is this a new level of singularity?
I would say yes, but at the same time, no. Because again, this comes down to what we consider hacking, like for our generation. Like that is something that can be protected against. To where in theory, it's like, well, if somebody does get into your system, there are countermeasures that can be taken to where it's very minimal the effect that it has on your system. So this could just be the protection that it has.
Right, but the thing is,
But
like, that's the hospital's protection, and they already got around that.
right, so it just kind of one of those where it's like it most likely that's what it's supposed to signify, which would also be this would be one of the first ones that didn't get turned into an evil fucking evil monster.
Yeah, it's a good point. Honestly, I feel like yeah, he's like a higher level. Like everybody thought, or Aruto, I guess, thought the nurse would be good enough, but like she wasn't. Like she wasn't high enough. I don't know. It's complicated. I mean, like we don't know exactly how it works, but yeah, I feel like he like had more personality, or like it was more intact. That he could resist it, so that's kind of cool. Honestly, when that scene came up, I was like, "Holy shit! Are you gonna like flip flop between both sides, and then are we just gonna get like a fucking homage to like original writer, and you're just gonna turn Fua into some kind of cyborg?" I'm like, that would have been cool, but like the show kind of went with the more predictable route. But I'm like, yeah, that makes sense also.
Sorry. So, Aruto's with 70 Giga, Izu shows up and gives him. Well, first off, uh, even though he got his ass kicked, Aruto is still able to make a pun that Hirobi doesn't understand, and Izu runs into the scene explaining the gag.
Because gotta have Aruto.
Oh man, that was so good.
Which
Like that entrance was so
I like.
cheesy. It's amazing.
I saw that entrance shortly after the episode aired because it was a GIF on Tumblr. It looked so terrible in the GIF. It's like it doesn't look much better in the show, but it does.
Better frame rate, I imagine.
Right. I think it was the frame rate issues, like because yeah, it just looked overly stupid in the GIF, and I'm like, I really want to see where this is, what exactly how this plays out in the show and why that happens. The fact that it was to explain a pun, I think, is fantastic. I mean, yes, she's there to give him, the progress key, but yeah, she could have thrown that if need be. She
Nah,
rushed in. She rushed in just to explain the pun.
because she wanted to. That was her decision. That was not in her programming.
Yep. Yeah, I kind of agree. Also, like the best thing about that nonsense is like she does the run and the slide, and then she at the end she just still takes like one step to the left. I was like,
To
oh,
to
that's
get
great.
that proper, robotic pose.
Yeah, I know, right? That was so well done, honestly. Yeah, like little moments like this are fucking great. This like okay, this is one of those weird things. Like, I don't. Is this in the script, or is this like just the directors and the actors coming up with this? Because like, I mean, like technically, like insane shit like this did happen in X8, but like X8 has such wacky characters that it kind of just blends in.
I don't know.
Um,
Maybe the guy's just a good director.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe it's just the actors and director are doing it, which is cool too. But it could also just be in the script, which if it is, that's actually pretty well done too. Like it just builds their dynamic. Um, I mean, still find the puns annoying, but like it's just a way of showing like Izu and Aruto's dynamic, which is great.
It's like it's these type of like those little small moments in this series, and through Writer and Sentai since I've started watching it is like that's what made me fall in love with the show. Yeah, I love watching the fight scenes and I love the stories, like, but it's the little nuanced stuff that goes on that most people would overlook, like the step. Whereas it's just a small detail that shows great care on the part of the actors, the directors, the writers, where whatever aspect of this that is the point that's focusing on that. It shows a lot of love and care for the show and, you know, trying to put forth the best possible product, even if some aspects of it suck.
Yeah, I mean, even though like I'm not super a fan of like the Megazord shit in Rider, because I'm like, why do we even need this? Like, riders can literally rider kick Megazords down.
I
Like,
would
maybe not the fused ones,
I would
but
be
like,
okay with it if they used practical suits.
oh, like Sentai. Yeah,
Yes,
but
Like,
like
do it Sentai style. It looks better.
I know it does, but the thing is, like, they're never gonna reuse this shit. It's only here to sell the toys.
Right. It's not like Sentai where it's a fucking MacGuffin.
Right, where plus the thing with Sentai is like that is their power up, whereas in like Rider all the suits are the power up. So it's like the equivalent of making like one or two more Rider suits. It's like the show's gonna need all the budget it can for the ones it has. Right? Like they can't
Right.
spare it. Yeah. Which honestly like I'm fine with. Um it's probably just here for like a one time thing. I
I
I don't even mind it.
I can't imagine they would only use it once. I think we're gonna get a second use later down the road.
The only issue I really have is because I enjoyed it is that it just takes me out of the episode a little bit when it's like, oh my god, CG.
Right. And I mean
Like,
like didn't like Wild Force have like CGI mech fights or something? Like one of the mid
Uh,
2000s Sentai.
Wild
I like
Force? No. They had like the CGI for the Zords coming together, but the actual mech fights were
Oh.
just in suit.
I
Oh, okay.
know Lupin Ranger had some for like, and it was just more for like to show off the aerodynamics and acrobatic ability of the Megazords because it was pretty much just the Lupin Rangers one
Wait,
and like dodging, from building to building. Yeah, there was CG in that one. There was a lot of CG in that one.
Wild Force had the CG face that would change during the fight for the finisher.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Maybe it was like okay, I know it's a thing in like one of them.
Like,
Maybe
it probably is Wild Force that you're thinking of that has that much CG.
yeah, yeah, or it could be like Hurricane But I'm like, no,
No, not
that's
Hurricane.
well, I know Hurricane for the combinations. I know had a lot of fucking
Um,
because it's definitely in the goddamn power
Lost
up.
Galaxy had a little bit.
Yeah, maybe they were just trying it and it's like it didn't work out.
Like
Um,
I think for me my biggest issue with this level of CG in it is like Ryder has always been pretty decent with the CG it uses in the show with it kind of blending a little better and not being as glaring
right, I
unless you're counting fire on trees in fives and that just looks like somebody in paint did it. It's still one of the greatest screenshots I've ever taken of that show. But with here, it's so, oh my god, that's CG. That to me
Right.
it breaks the format a little bit, which I understand you kind of have to with something like this. It's especially with the as acrobatic as they were, the fight was. It just kind of it's that one moment where it's like, you know, again, writer, but very real life ability type thing until you get to like the finishers and weirdo shit, and then it's CG giant monster fight.
Right.
It's
I
like
think like
it,
yeah.
it hits that point and you're like, what the fuck am I watching now? It's such a drastic shift.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the biggest reasons why we keep having this is because like Bandai wants more money and
Oh,
like
every
Sentai yeah, but
I will accept that 100%.
yeah, and the thing is like Sentai mechs are like pretty simple to make because like they're not articulated towards shit. Um, they transform, but the rider mechs don't even transform, right? They're just like really simple Sentai mechs. But the thing is like you could add like rider. There's like a ton of crazy shit. Um, and you can have like a million forms. I mean, like even we've seen like so many forms. There's like standardized versions of them too now. But you can go crazy a little bit. Whereas Sentai, you can't really go crazy with the suits, but they started adding more power ups like Rider into it, and then like Ultraman has fucking power ups and shit too now. So they're like, well, Rider tends to make the most money. Well, besides like Gundam and Dragon Ball. Okay, Gundam, Dragon Ball, One Piece, and then Rider maybe. But the point is like, Toei and Bandai own like a lot of shit that makes money, so they're always like thinking like, oh, how can I make more money? Especially Bandai, but right, like the problem is, well, the belts are kind of expensive, but the way they remedy that is like the collecting shit, where it's like, well, you don't have to collect all of it, but like, you're gonna buy more than one. But then like they've run into the problem of like we put too much shit in to collect. Like we cannot make a show with this much crap, right? Like drive and build especially like way too many fucking switches. Like it was getting bad by the time with Wizard, but like Jesus, build was so bad. Um, right. So they need another thing, and like, and the other thing also is they need another fucking show. And
Well,
there used to be Metal Heroes, but like they keep trying to rebound Metal Heroes, but like it never like fully takes off. So they keep just doing crossovers, which I'm like that's fine for Sentai and stuff. Those tend to be pretty fun episodes.
As long as I
Um,
get to keep seeing Gavin show up, I'm good. Or Kavan, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
uh,
yeah. Come on, which one?
so
Original or the second?
Either one.
Yeah, that's
I'm
like
okay with either
Kavan.
one.
because Sentai has been on such a decline as of late, Ryu Soldier is kind of their last effort to try and save the franchise. But if the toy sales don't go up, then Sentai will stop being an annual series.
Holy shit! Like whoa. Okay, like I knew it was bad, but jeez, I never thought like Sentai not being annual. Like what?
Right, because that's not
Sentai
been a
gonna
thing since it started.
yeah, like Sentai is the one tokusatsu that never goes on break, right? Like holy fuck,
Yeah.
that's kind of insane. Um, yeah. So the thing, like I thought fucking Lupin versus Pat would do well. Like I thought it was
It was
doing
really
okay.
good character wise and story wise, and it had plenty of toy material, but it didn't draw in the kids to buy all the toys.
That
That
most of the
sucks.
toys were the mechs.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
so the reason why we have another Dinosaur Sentai so soon after Kyryuger
Is
that
because dinosaurs sell
is because
Everybody loves
Dinosaur
dinosaurs.
Cell.
and
Kyryuger
fans.
The last time they had this problem was Go Busters, which did horrible toy sale wise. Kyryuger fixed that problem and did better than they needed it to.
Yeah, but like the difference, Curious is like super fun, kind of, or
Exactly.
at least it's got like a lot of energy.
That's
Um,
exactly it though. They're trying to incorporate a lot of those successful elements. Like this color lineup is the exact same. The suit designs are very similar. They don't have the dancing, but they have like the tribal like figures dancing around them. Like they have a lot of the same elements, including like
Plot devices.
yeah, like they do a lot of similar things from Kyoto. Like they're trying to recreate the success.
yeah, honestly, I think at this point, like if this doesn't work, they really have to go the Hibiki route, which is like you have like a core group, which are kind of there for the most thing, but then you have like other heroes who like step in and out, you know? And the thing is, the way you deal with the oh we're not selling enough toys is you do the rider thing of they have different belts or henshin things or whatever, right? Um, because like Sentai's problem is like they have like one fucking henshin device for the most part, and it doesn't sell enough. I'm like, yeah, of course it doesn't, right? Like it's not gonna, nothing can beat the insanity that is the rider collectathon gimmick.
Like they kind of max out at 2 on average
Right,
if they do have more than one, because you've got Q Ranger Gold, who's got the little arm device instead of the gun, and in this one you have Canelo, who has a gun instead of a sword, or instead of
right.
the wrist change device. So they kind of flip
Yeah.
that one backwards.
Yeah, interesting. So what I was thinking is like look at Zero-One. It's got like three different morphers, right? So there's like Zero-One's one, and the Ames Riders have one, and like Matsuri
It's
Jinrai has
Bowser is
one.
gonna have his
that
own.
yeah, that was just gonna add another one.
Yeah, good point. And so that's what I'm saying is like have like your standard like set of three for your Sentai team, and they use one henshin device. Then every time you introduce like a team of two or one or whatever,
Oh, like Go
like
Onger.
yeah, like Goanger or like Q Ranger, yeah,
I mean,
the
e-
space one. Um,
even as bad as like 0-1 was, they still had 2 belts that were unique to the franchise, and then they modified two of the like two of the past ones, Decades and the Ends, to again, which again would have caused people to buy them.
build. Yeah, yeah.
Not 0-1 because they changed
Zio.
Decade Zio. Yeah, that's what I meant. Zio.
Oh my
I
god,
was
we
what the hell I was
both
talking
got
about.
it.
God, it's gonna be a long day for me.
Uh, yeah.
Um,
Um,
but they changed two other previous belt or transformation devices, which again would trigger people to buy it, especially people who were fans of that.
I mean, honestly, the updates are so well done because, like, oh right, these are the belts which allow them to use like the Neo Heisei Rider powers. I'm like, all right, it perfectly makes sense in character that they would upgrade their shit.
Like, and I love the fact that they made Decades pink. I mean magenta.
Whatever, it's fine. But the thing is, like, it matches his suit better now. Honestly, like, both of his belts are nice. Like, Decade's suit is okay. It's not great, but like his belt is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Because like it's so simple, but like the like freaking like card in and then like push the sides and then pull the sides and card out. Like that's so fucking satisfying. Um, so that's pretty cool. But like I was saying for Sentai's, like the problem is like no, like everybody zones out at the mech fight. I think that's what's happening. Is like even like Western fans and stuff is like oh, like after a while you kind of grow out of the mech fights. I think I that's my theory anyway.
Well, I think that
Um,
has, which I understand we're on an entirely side subject here, but
no, it's
and
fine. I
I'm
mean,
not trying to drag it out too long because I do have an appointment I need or time schedule I need to keep on. But I think it has to do with the fact that here lately the mech fights were literally there just because they had to sell a fucking Megazord.
yeah,
Because
that's the
they've
worst.
aside from Lupat, and this one's been a little bit better with it since previous, more recent Sentai shows, where it's literally it's there just to shoot a fucking laser beam at the monster.
Yeah, I think that's the worst because
There haven't really been mech fights here lately that have had weight and meaning. I mean, like I said, Lupat changed that, but it's gotten to that point where like I can very much see people just tuning it out because it's gotten to that point.
right. I mean, uh, that's like the worst part of like build, especially where it's like he's got so many forms, and why is this here? Like, does this really do that much difference? Like, no, not really. It's just here to sell the toys, and I'm like that's so lame. Um, Whereas I think like the real problem with the mech fights is like they need to be like a little bit like Ultraman with like the Earth Defense Force thing, where it's like they have vehicles and they have like very important reasons why they have these vehicles, and the vehicles have like specific abilities, but different vehicles have different, right? So like the old school way of what Sentai mechs used to be, it's like, oh, we have to use this mech here for this specific reason, or this ranger's mech does this, that one doesn't do that, you know? So like bring thought back into why the mechs are important, or you go like full fucking crazy and just go Zoids, where it's like, no, like
That would be
we're
awesome.
gonna, yeah, that would be amazing, right? Where it's like, no, like the mechs are super important. You're not gonna get like a million different ones. You might get like attachments and shit. You know what? Why haven't they done that? Honestly, like fucking Dynamics Gunpla. And I know, I mean, that's not true. They started coming out with like accessory kits for Gunpla and shit. Plus, they fucking make Metabots, so that also makes sense. But like, they should have it so instead of getting a whole new goddamn mech, I know that's like the Sentai thing. It should just be like, oh, you get like an accessory kit for this or something, where it's like, yeah, it kind of just like upgrades it because that way it kind of just becomes like the rider thing of like, oh, you have the base, but then you have like more shit you can collect with it, right? But I would really fucking love it if we go like Zoids, where it's like, yeah, this thing has a very specific use and it's important to work in a team because that way like we all cover all of our bases and all our differences, and if you gotta fight solo you gotta fight to your strengths, like
All
that
right,
would be great.
all right, we gotta wrap this up. So Aruto defeats the Giga and stops the Magi rebellion with no casualties. Izu is reviewing the news footage where they announce this. But they also have footage of the assassin Human Gear, uh, who still has blue eyes because he wasn't infected. He was built. Uh, However, this puts Hiden technology in a very bad light. Uh, Yua comes into thank Izu for her help, and Izu questions Yua like, "Hey, did you record this?" Yua, of course, did, but she lies about it. Uh,
Real quick on that. So that at the footage that they have is after it was infected,
well,
but after Yua kidnapped it and reprogrammed it.
like, was it one that was infected, or was it one that they built from scratch?
Well, it was. I want to. I can't remember exactly where because that was Assassin Chan.
Yeah.
He just kind of popped up. I want to say that they built him. Hirobi had it built, or that it was one that was already in Daybreak. Um, but it was hacked to begin with when he first showed up. Yua kidnapped it and then reprogrammed it and still let it try to kill Aruto.
Yeah, but I don't know if that part is relevant. Like, I'd have to go back and see what color its eyes were before it was kidnapped.
Red.
They were?
Yeah, it was red.
Oh.
because they made a show of it when he transformed into the dodo in that particular episode of showing that it was blue at that point.
Okay.
So it was infected originally, and then you would just reprogrammed it.
So Arto talks to Fuwa on top of the hospital, where Fuwa admits that now he doesn't just have a memory of human gear attacking him, he has a memory of a human gear saving his life. Naruto makes a pun, and Fuwa starts to laugh, but he just got to have surgery, so it hurts. And Naruto gets the wrong idea and thinks that his jokes are painful.
Well, I mean, they are, but
In a good way.
yeah, like this is like Zero says, like this is where his character arc gets the proper start, and it's done really well. In for an episode that he was, dead, half dead, 90% of the episode. And it's done well, and it was exactly kind of how, along the lines of what we were expecting was going to happen.
Hey, you know what's really interesting? We're like 9 episodes in with the female writer.
And there, she's
She's
not
al-
dead yet.
And she's not
Yeah,
dead!
Yeah, she's also only lost like maybe once. Well, did she like get kicked out of her henshin? Well, I think she was losing a fight. I don't think
One way or
she's
another, she
been.
broke her arm.
Yeah. Well, that's because fucking like she got like hit with the super attack.
Just fucking
Um,
Hirobi showed up.
Yeah. Right.
Uh,
But the thing is like, yeah, she's like the only one who hasn't like fully dehenshin, which I'm like, that's impressive.
like
Um,
it's 9 episodes. She hasn't died. She hasn't completely lost a fight to that level, and she's still useful.
yeah. She's also not one note. Which,
Yeah,
what?
she's hit the true writer trifecta of what we needed for a female writer.
Right, exactly. Like she's not comic relief. She's not just the stone cold, hard ass with like, which we sometimes get in female writers. Actually, that's not true. It's like 50-50 chance you're either gonna get a totally useless one or like a super hard ass one. Who then ends up losing anyway. But like this, like the best version out of like any of them at this point. I mean, like there've been some decent ones in the past, but I think like Yua is probably at this point like number one. I mean, like potentially, you can maybe make an argument for some of the others, but like, she's pretty much up there.
Alright. Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. Sorry we missed Sentai yesterday. We were going to try and make it up to you tonight, but we don't have the time for that. So we'll see about rescheduling it for another time. Thank you for joining. We'll see you next time.
Thank you all for joining. I do apologize for Sentai. That's slightly partly my fault for tonight. But thank you all for listening. We will see you back when we do the Sentai podcast, and then we will see you back next week for next week's set of episodes.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.